Have you ever heard the story of Atlantis, a magnificent island civilization, advanced beyond its time, that vanished beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune? For centuries, people have searched for this lost city. But what if I told you the real Atlantis wasn't a myth at all? What if it was a real, thriving Bronze Age superpower, erased from history by one of the most violent natural disasters humanity has ever witnessed? Today, we journey back in time to the sun-drenched island of Crete to uncover the story of the Minoans, the civilization that might just be the true source of the Atlantis legend. Our story begins around 3000 BCE on the island of Crete, a jewel in the Aegean Sea. Here, a unique and vibrant culture began to flourish. We call them the Minoans, named by archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans after the mythical king Minos of Crete, the one with the famous labyrinth and the Minotaur. But the real Minoans were far more fascinating than any myth. They were not warriors in the traditional sense. They were merchants, sailors, artists, and engineers. They were the first major maritime power in the Mediterranean, a true thalassocracy, ruling the waves not with swords, but with ships laden with timber, olive oil, wine, and exquisite pottery. Their ships, sleek and fast, connected them to the great empires of the time, Egypt, the Hittites, and the city-states of the Levant. They were the great connectors of the ancient world, weaving a web of trade and cultural exchange across the sea. This wealth, flowing back to Crete, funded one of the most incredible architectural achievements of the Bronze Age, the Great Palaces. When we say palace, you might picture a king's fortified castle, but the Minoan palaces were something else entirely. The most famous of them all, Knossos, was more like a bustling city complex. It sprawled over 6 acres, a multi-story labyrinth of over 1,000 rooms connected by corridors and grand staircases. There were royal apartments, workshops for artisans, massive storage magazines filled with giant clay jars called pithoi, and even a sophisticated plumbing and drainage system that would have been the envy of many European cities thousands of years later. And what's most striking about Knossos and the other Minoan palaces at Phaistos, Mallia, and Zakros is what they're missing: fortifications. No giant walls, no defensive towers, no citadels built for war. This speaks volumes about the Minoans. They lived in a state of relative peace and security, their confidence placed not in stone walls, but in the power of their fleet to control the surrounding seas. This was a society that valued art and life over conflict. And oh, their art. To look at Minoan art is to get a glimpse into their soul. Their palace walls were covered in vibrant frescoes, bursting with color and life. Unlike the stiff, formal art of Egypt or the war-glorifying art of their Mycenaean neighbors, Minoan art is fluid, natural, and full of joy. We see dolphins leaping from azure waves, young men and women somersaulting over charging bulls in a daring ritual, elegant ladies with elaborate hairstyles and fashionable dresses, and scenes of lush nature filled with lily and griffins. Their pottery was equally stunning, decorated with swirling octopuses and intricate floral patterns. It's the art of a people who loved beauty, nature, and celebration. Their society also seems to have been remarkably egalitarian, especially for the ancient world. Women feature prominently in Minoan art, not just as background figures, but as priestesses, participants in rituals, and central figures in social gatherings. They appear confident and powerful, suggesting they held a high and respected status in society. Their primary deity seems to have been a goddess, often depicted with snakes, a symbol of fertility and earthly power. It was a world seemingly balanced, prosperous, and in love with life. For over 1,000 years, the Minoan civilization was the bright, beating heart of the Aegean. And then, it all came to a catastrophic end. Around 100 kilometers north of Crete lies a group of islands we now call Santorini. But in the Bronze Age, it was a single, large volcanic island known as Thera. Sometime around 1600 BCE, Thera exploded. This wasn't just an eruption, it was a cataclysm of almost unimaginable scale. Geologists estimate it was one of the largest volcanic events in human history, perhaps 100 times more powerful than the eruption of Vesuvius that buried Pompeii. The eruption blew the center of the island of Thera to pieces, creating the giant water-filled caldera we see today. It shot a column of ash and rock dozens of kilometers into the sky, blotting out the sun and plunging the entire region into darkness for days. This ash fell like a thick, heavy snow across the eastern Mediterranean, burying the Minoan settlement at Akrotiri on Thera itself, preserving it perfectly like a Bronze Age Pompeii. But for the Minoans on Crete, the worst was yet to come. The collapse of the volcano's caldera into the sea would have generated a series of colossal tsunamis. Imagine monster waves, perhaps tens of meters high, racing south across the sea at the speed of a jetliner. They would have slammed into the northern coast of Crete, where most of the Minoan towns, ports, and palaces were located. The Minoan fleet, their pride, and their shield would have been obliterated in an instant, smashed to pieces in their harbors, or swallowed by the open sea. The waves would have surged miles inland, destroying coastal settlements, flooding fertile farmlands with salt water, and wiping out everything in their path. The devastation would have been absolute. The economic backbone of the Minoan world, their fleet and their coastal agriculture, was shattered. The ecological impact was just as severe. The massive ash cloud would have triggered a volcanic winter, lowering global temperatures, causing crop failures, and leading to famine. The psychological shock on a people who lived in harmony with the sea must have been profound. Their world was literally turned upside down, drowned and poisoned by the very elements they revered. The Minoan civilization didn't disappear overnight, but the Thera eruption was the beginning of the end. The palaces show signs of destruction, and while some were rebuilt, they never regained their former glory. Weakened and in chaos, the Minoans became vulnerable. Within a few generations, a new power rose in the Aegean, the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece, a more militaristic and aggressive culture. They moved into Crete, occupying Knossos and taking control. The vibrant, unique Minoan culture began to fade, absorbed by the newcomers. Their language, written in a script we call Linear A, which remains undeciphered, fell silent. Their artistic style was replaced. By 1100 BCE, the memory of the great Minoan civilization had all but vanished, slipping into the realm of myth. So, was this the real Atlantis? Let's look at the parallels. The Greek philosopher Plato, who wrote the story of Atlantis, described it as a great island nation beyond the Pillars of Hercules, with a powerful navy and an advanced civilization that was destroyed by earthquakes and floods in a single day. While the geography is different, the core of the story, a mighty, sophisticated island empire suddenly destroyed by a natural cataclysm, is a chillingly accurate description of what happened to the Minoans. It's very possible that the memory of the Thera catastrophe was passed down through generations, evolving over 1,000 years until it reached Plato, who wove it into his philosophical tale of a perfect society punished for its pride. The story of the Minoans is a powerful and humbling reminder of our own fragility. They built a world of peace, art, and commerce that was, in many ways, more advanced and harmonious than many that came after. Yet, in the face of nature's awesome power, their magnificent civilization was brought to its knees. Their palaces crumbled, their fleets were splintered, and their culture was washed away, leaving behind only enigmatic ruins and beautiful, silent art that speaks of a lost golden age. A world erased by fire and water, a haunting echo of a real-life Atlantis. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to Bronze Age Crete. If you found the story of the Minoans as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep exploration into the mysteries of the past. Let me know in the comments what you think. Could the Minoans be the real Atlantis? Until next time, stay curious,